Arrangement is organizing all the elements of a song, but also to have an efficient workflow to do so. Because of that, and because it was also requested by viewers, today I bring you 11 tips to optimize your arrangement workflow on Bitwig. They are in some sort of logical order, so you will find each one of them really useful. The first one is to have a template. This one is not Bitwig exclusive, because no matter the DAW, having a template is a time saver. Whether you have favorite effects, a set chain for your master bus, and even audio inputs, you can save all of that in a template. A personal example is that I have a template when I want to play with my two synths at the same time, Mini Brute 2S and the Subharmonicon. It's a really simple template, but I have this device to send the clock information to the Mini Brute, the input for the Mini Brute, and the input for the Subharmonicon. I also have a delay and a reverb that I like. In Bitwig, making a template is really easy. You just set everything up, maybe you can put your most used effects, and then you just go to File and Save as Template. You load them here on User My Templates. Straightforward, pretty easy, so let's go to the second tip. Some DAWs have track templates that lets you add a new track with set features, inserts, whatever can be inside a track. Sadly, Bitwig doesn't have that, or does it? In this DAW you have the chain container, and if you want to watch a video about the containers, go watch this one right here. You press here, a new plus button will appear, and you can insert any device that you want, even third-party plugins. Then you can save this as a preset, and then every time you want to open that specific chain, you just have to put the chain template and choose the preset that you want. I thought if it will be possible to have a group with a lot of tracks inside of it, and save that as a template to use in any project. I have this project called SSD Template. I open it up, and inside a group, I have the SSD sampler. I have every microphone routed to different tracks. The great thing is that when you have an open project on Bitwig, if you open a new project, even if it's a template, it will start with the audio engine off. And that means that everything will be inactive and it's not going to use any extra CPU because the plugins are not loaded. Still, we can copy and paste it. Now I have the SSD sampler where I can program the MIDI, and also every microphone is already routed to all of these other tracks, so I can export the multi-tracks. Continuing with the idea of any device preset, you can choose some presets to be favorites and create collections to be shown here in the browser. You just have to select location. So let's go back to the chain that we made and that we call chain template for whatever reason, and then look for it on the browser. Then we just right click, add it to favorite, and when I go to location and select my favorite, you will see that I have the chain template here and, well, another preset that I like. You can also create as many collections as you want, so you can get collections for mixing, for producing, for anything. One of the things that I like the most about Bitwig is that you can have the clip launcher and the playlist arranger on the same screen. This is great for many reasons. First of all, I always start a song or an idea with some improvised loops on the clip launcher. So when I have the idea that I like, I just select the clips and then duplicate them by holding Ctrl into the playlist. You can see they are grayed out, and if you want them to play from there, you just have to click this button. But this is also great to test different ideas on specific tracks. For example, what if I want to test two different drum patterns but in context of the arrangement? I just have to, again, press play on one of these clips, and then it's not going to play from the playlist, but not these two. These two are still on the playlist. So then you can go back and forth between each clip, and you can hear in context which one is the one you like the best. Not only that, you can also build your own song right here and test different combinations of scenes depending on the tracks you have. Then again, when you have the one that you like, you just drag and drop into the playlist. A great workflow is enhanced by using key shortcuts. Bitwig has its own key mapping, and you can access to it in Settings, Shortcuts. The great thing about this is that it's entirely customizable. If you are not used to the mapping that Bitwig offers, you can adapt it to your own needs. You just have to press the plus button and press a key. Not only that, you can also map your MIDI controller to activate the same parameters, which is great if you have some sort of control surface or whatever you want. Markers are an easy way to organize the section of a song visually. You just have to right click here on the top of the timeline and insert Q marker. Then you can double click it and change the name. You can add as many as you want. This is pretty basic, but following the last tip, you can actually map a keyboard shortcut to trigger the first marker, the second, and so on. For example, I like to have my number path mapped to the different sections of a song. So if I want the first marker to be number 1, just click plus and press it. Then the same for number 2. So now, following the improvised song that we're making, I can play the verse or the chorus whenever I want. Of course, this is great for more complex and bigger songs, but you get the idea. Groups are amazing. And being able to work with them with folders, it's even more amazing, at least for me. The easy way to do it is by selecting the tracks you want to be in a group and then press Command or Control G. You can rename it to anything you want. The other amazing thing with this workflow is that you can add effects tracks inside that group. You can also collapse the groups, so it's easier to the eye. Now, there's another feature with this, which is this icon right here. If you click it, you can see all the folders that you have. The main one is the whole project, but if we choose synths, we will only see the synths, but you can still hear the rest of the instruments. This is fantastic for big projects and it makes things so much easier to the eye and lets you focus better on specific groups of instruments. This little icon will show you all the automation that you can do. As you see, we can select things for the mixer or for the instrument. And inside the instrument, you can even automate things that are on the effects that the instrument has. But if you don't want to do menu diving, you can simply click the parameter you want, for example here, the cutoff point of the filter, and it will automatically open the automation lane of it. This other tip is an immediate follow-up of the last tip, because you may ask yourself, what about third-party plugins? The great thing about Bitwig is that every parameter inside the synthesizer will be mapped to all of these macros right here. So you can immediately apply something as modulators or automation without having to do some menu diving or whatnot. And if you just click on any parameter inside the synthesizer, it will automatically go to the top of the list, for example the cutoff point. This makes working with third-party plugins so much faster and easier. So then we can add modulators, we can select it to modify the automation, but the third-party plugins integration doesn't stop there. This thing right here is technically a device. And with this little arrow, which shows the plugin post effects chain, you can add devices and even third-party effects to follow anything that you made on the synthesizer. This is great because you can save any preset that you want made with any synthesizer, any effect that you like, and then you can go back to one of the first tips and save it on your favorite collection. The two last tips are from the same concept, which is bouncing. On Bitwig, we have two bouncing modes, and by the way, bouncing means rendering. You can bounce any MIDI clip. You just have to right click and there you have bounce and bounce in place. Bounce is going to render the selected clip or even a time selection into a new track. You have options for the source, pre-effects, pre-fader, post-fader or custom, the resolution and the bit depth. Once you are happy with it, you just hit OK. And there you have it. This is useful if you want to resynthesis or resample different sounds that you are making without affecting the original signal, but you can also bounce entire groups. Not only that, if you do a selection on your master bus, you can bounce it to have some sort of reference, or you can use it for whatever reason you want, anything you like. Finally, let's talk about bouncing in place. If you're like me, you may find it odd that Bitwig doesn't have a freeze option, but bouncing in place is actually better. Bouncing in place will render the MIDI clip and replace it, but it will only render the instrument output. That means that, for instance, in these drums, if we add, I don't know, a beat crusher, and then we do the bounce in place, when we listen to it, it's not going to include the beat crush. This can save CPU because you can now deactivate the SSD sampler, but what's the point if I can have a gigantic chain of effects that are also CPU intensive? Well, remember that Bitwig devices and third-party plugins have this option to put effects inside of them. That means that if we put the beat crusher inside of it, it will be included in the bounce in place. This is great because you can have a chain of creative effects inside your synthesizer, or in this case inside the drum plugin, but you can also have another chain which is dedicated to mixing. So then if the synthesizer and the effects that are inside of it are too CPU intensive, but I don't know if in the future I will want to change the EQ, you just have to bounce in place, deactivate the instrument, and as you see the EQ is still active. So now I can say I added too much low end, and I can take care of that without having to convert it into a MIDI clip again, and so on and so on. Now tell me in the comments if these tips were useful to you, if this was what you were expecting, and what other things related to arrangement you want to see in the channel. I have many things planned, but I want to read your opinions. Please give a like to the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!